Friday, everyone. Put that thumbs up if you're willing.
We got a party for a lifetime. No, we ain't stopping for the sunrise. No, we don't care about the bad nights. If for a second I can feel like this, make me feel like this. Young blood made of gold, a mind you can't control. Running wild, can't come down. My head is in the clouds. Gotta keep this feeling, keep on breathing, even if we're slipping away. So I close my eyes and lose myself now. Do it like it's only today. We got a party for a lifetime. No, we ain't stopping for the sunrise. No, we don't care about the bad nights. For a second I can feel like this, make me feel like this. We got a party for a lifetime. No, we ain't stopping for the sunrise. No, we don't care about the bad nights. For a second I can feel like this, make me feel like this.
Let's get the weekend started, Pearls.
I'm on my last straw. I'm broken and I'm woken up. I'm done feeding your lies. I've had enough. I can't run your place in this faulty game. And all the words you speak mean nothing more to me. 'Cause let's start over now. Let's take it slow. Where you go, I go too. And if you hit the bottom, I'm going down with you. Let's take it slow. Who cares where we gotta be? You know you'll have a good time wherever you're with me. Let's take it slow. Ask me how we got here, 'cause you don't know how. You say we're taking on water, yeah, we're sinking now. You're looking all concerned, like we're gonna drown. But we both know how to swim, no worries, let's go for now. Let's take it slow. Where you go, I go too. And if you hit the bottom, I'm going down with you. Let's take it slow. Who cares where we gotta be? You know you'll have a good time wherever you're with me. Let's take it slow. I drag you out your mind, and there are days I hate you, but baby, you're still mine. And then we have the best times, no matter what we do. And even when we don't, there's nobody I'd rather choose. Let's take it slow. Where you go, I go too. And if you hit the bottom, I'm going down with you. Let's take it slow. Who cares where we gotta be? You know you'll have a good time wherever you're with me. Let's take it slow. Where you go, I go too. And if you hit the bottom, I'm going down with you. Let's take it slow. Who cares where we gotta be? You know you'll have a good time wherever you're with me.
Well, hello everyone. Thank you so much for joining me. Really do appreciate your time. Today is August 16th, 2024. It is 6:23 p.m. on the East Coast of the United States. Hello, hello. It's good to see you all. Thank you so much for joining me. As we get started, please make sure you've hit that thumbs up button. Is a great way to get out the word on these stories. It's good to see you all in chat, my lovely, lovely pearls. So this is a story we have been following for quite some time. I believe Dr. Hoover was unalived in 2022. So it's been a couple years. Now, Dr. Hoover, let me just kind of set it up for you a little bit, because this has a lot of the elements of there is wealth, there is status, there is sex, there is mansions, there is drugs, and there is, of course, unalivings. And there has finally been someone arrested. Dr. Hoover is a neurosurgeon in Michigan, lives in one of the wealthiest communities right outside of Dearborn, I believe. It's somewhere around there. And oh, that's sweet, cat. That's sweet. So, for those of you that don't know this case or don't remember much about it, we're going to go over what this story is about. Dr. Hoover was a neuroscientist. That is as high status really of a doctor as you can be. It's 8 extra years of school. So what I want to show you is what and how this started out. This is Dr. Hoover, very handsome gentleman. He was single. Dr. Hoover kept his life very private. However, he identified in the community of LGBTQ, and he kept that very quiet. He has some of the best reviews in the area. He went above and beyond in his everyday practice. He bought a very, very sprawling mansion, over 12,000 square feet. He was a collector of the arts, really sought after antiques, great taste. His neighbors adored him. The community adored him. And he was unalived. Who would do this to a neurosurgeon? That's what the community was asking. Yes, lived in this big 12,000 square foot plus mansion alone. And everyone was just up in arms. His friends were upset. The community is upset because this is taking away, every life is valuable, but this man helped people from illness, from pain, from suffering every day. So let's get into it. It's quite a bit.
Hoover was a wildly successful neurosurgeon in Detroit. His patients raved about him as a doctor and as a man. Dr. Hoover lived alone in this sprawling mansion in the Boston Edison district. Inside the mansion, 13,000 square feet of class.
So, I mean, you can imagine. Did you know him, Summer Rain? Did you know him? He was very well known in the community. My step niece and her 6 friends murder trial is set to start. 7 deadly sins. Look it up. Needs attention. Okay, boo. I will do that. I'll do that. Yeah, very handsome guy.
Classic decor and art.
You're not gonna believe who
Dr. Hoover would
did
often
this.
open up his home for fundraisers and social events. In all, the doctor was living his best life and helping others along the way. But on April 23rd, 2023, when
Oh, it was 2023. Okay, 2023. It seems like it's been longer than that. Drew, thank you so much for 5 months, my dear. Continuing for your support. Really do appreciate that so very much, my dear. Thank you for that. Yes, please hit that thumbs up. Appreciate your support, keeping my little channel going. Yeah, and let me tell you something. Oh, I forgot to tell you this. The person that unalived Dr. Hoover, which we're going to get into, trust that, he was top suspect for quite a while. Was kept kind of very low key though. And get this. The police brought him in, questioned him, they let him go, and then he unalives someone else in a road rage accident. This man that unalived Dr. Hoover.
Dr. Hoover did not show up at a family function, police were called to do a welfare check. And when they arrived at the mansion, no one answered the door, so police went inside. That's where they found Dr. Hoover's lifeless body, the victim of a violent death. Who would want to murder a man who was loved by so many and helped so many more? Tonight, we take a look at the evidence, the mansion, and the autopsy of Dr. Hoover as we investigate the murder at the mansion. I'm Vinny Politan. Thank you for joining us tonight here on Number one, you've got killers or killer that is on the loose, poses danger to others. Then you've got victims that are not getting justice. So when we talk about cases that are unsolved, keep that in your mind at all times. It's serious. And unfortunately, these days, in some cities around the nation, the number of unsolved homicides is rising.
Right. So this is right outside of Detroit, right? Detroit, Michigan. And you know how Detroit is, right? There is a lot of, the police are very busy. Very, very busy. So there's a lot of unalivings in that area. Sounds like the script to a movie. It really, it does a laugh a day. And just wait till you hear all of this. His mansion resembles the main house of the set of Why Killed. Yeah. Yes.
And that's probably.
But, usually with, a case like this, it is something. Hi, Amanda. Good to see you. It's usually, like you see these big homes and you see all kinds of people, and is it the butler? Is it this? Right. But this is just one where
problematic. A big problem.
Hoover lived alone.
But cases, even if they're not solved immediately, even if they're not solved within a few days or the first 48 hours or the first 48 days or the first 48 months, they can be solved. And we see it often.
Sorta.
As a matter of fact, the Delphi murders, Abby and Libby, took 5 years for an arrest in that case. Should have been quicker, in my estimation, because this guy was on the radar early, but somehow got caught in the bottom of a pile of papers.
Now, remember, just because someone is not arrested immediately doesn't mean that they will not be arrested later, right? So we've always got to keep the hope.
The most high-profile case in the history of that jurisdiction. But nonetheless, it took 5 years, but investigators stayed on the case. They followed some leads. They made an arrest. They haven't gotten a conviction yet, but at least they've gotten to that.
I don't want to tell you exactly who it is yet because you've got to hear it all about how he was found and all the people around him.
Point, which again gives you hope. There are unsolved cases. They can be solved. They can be solved. Another case, Kristen Smart, this one took like 20 years for her family to get justice, but they finally did. It was delayed a long time. They had a suspect in mind, but they couldn't put enough of the evidence together to be confident enough to bring it to trial, because you only get one shot. In our system, you bring someone to trial, you can't prove it, they're found not guilty, it's over. It's over. Even if you get more evidence later down the road.
Right. So you get one shot in this country, right? One shot. So you know what they say, the wheels of justice turn slowly. You know, you would rather have someone be out of prison for 3 years while you're working on a case rather than, you know, going straight to trial, not having all the facts or the evidence in play, and them getting away with it. And there's nothing you can do about it for the rest of eternity. So you gotta be patient sometimes. It sucks.
You can't try them again. And that's the way our system's built, rightfully so. But at the end of the day, sometimes this delays justice and delays arrests and prosecutions. Sometimes investigators think, all right, we know who did it. And the prosecutor's like, well, I'm gonna need a little more evidence. We need to tie a few more loose ends. So when I bring this inside a courtroom,
I'll get to that in a little
and
bit.
there's a competent defense attorney on the other side attacking our evidence, we want to make sure we've got the right person, number one, but number two, that we can prove it beyond any and all reasonable doubt. Having a suspect and knowing who did it,
Hold on 1 second.
to flip and give us some evidence to
Give me 1
have
second.
someone in mind. But when will they solve the case, make an arrest, and bring someone to trial? Sarah Michaels from Scripps News Detroit takes a look at that very question for us.
At the end of August, Detroit police said they'd have an announcement in the murder investigation of Dr. Devon Hoover by the time that snow hit the ground. Well, here it is, and loved ones want to know, where's that announcement?
We're prepared to have an announcement before snow hits the ground.
As snow covers the ground in Detroit this week.
Now, again, the police have always had a low-key suspect, but they weren't giving any names out. There were a few locals who, neighbors, I guess you could say, knew who that suspect may have been. And they said by the time the snow hits the ground, we will, hopefully have an arrest. Well, the snow hit the ground, and then the snow melted, and then the sun came out, right? And then it was summer again, and now we're starting to wind down summer, almost go into fall. Thankfully, there has been an arrest.
Loved ones of Dr. Devon Hoover aren't thinking about how cold it is. They tell me that they're thinking of that statement made by Detroit police at a police commissioner's meeting on August 31st. It's been 7 months since the 53-year-old Detroit surgeon was found dead, shot in his home, and nearly 3 months since that announcement was promised in his murder investigation. Best friend of Devon Hoover, Carol Gove, says she and family have heard nothing.
It's a huge rock on my head. It's
Okay. So, sounds like the Morphew case. So, this is one of Dr. Hoover's very good friends. Hey, Robin, good to see you. And she was very, she was definitely an advocate in speaking up for her friend. Now, Dr. Hoover, his mom was actually dying. And he was supposed to travel to go kind of say his goodbyes to her. And the family had someone to, go check the house, because he's obviously he's a doctor. He's very punctual. He's going to keep his word, especially to his family. And that's when police went there and found something suspicious around the home. And they found Dr. Hoover. I'll let them tell you exactly where they found Dr. Hoover. Michelle, thank you so much for your support, my dear. Really, really do appreciate that. Thank you, my love. Thank you. Really do appreciate that, Michelle. More than you know. Thank you, my love. All right, so let's continue on this.
It's like, it's not just me, it's just pressing. If the police don't have anything, then just say so. I can accept that. It was wrong information. It was wrong to make a statement like that. They don't have anything. Or if they do have something, they do know who it is, but they can't make a conviction or, feel that they can get a conviction, then just tell us anyway.
I reached out to Detroit police to ask for an update and an interview on the investigation. I was told that no one was available and nothing has changed.
Do family and loved ones feel that there has been enough transparency in this investigation?
No.
Former federal prosecutor Abed Humud tells me it's possible Detroit police aren't debriefing anyone to make sure that crucial information doesn't leak. He also pointed out that police have said the case may be domestic, and that
makes it more difficult in the sense that you can't just say X's DNA was in the house, X must be the suspect, because if it's an acquaintance, you expect to find the DNA in the house. So it makes it more difficult to investigate and prosecute.
In that same August meeting,
now, Dr. Hoover was muted? It shouldn't be muted. Dr. Hoover, the way he was found suggested that this was someone who knew him. Someone that, was just coming in to rob, a 12,000 square foot home. They're probably not going to, if someone who robs someone, they usually don't just go hide someone's remains. They usually just unalive them, which is usually rare. To just break in and unalive someone, especially you don't know. They usually do it when someone is not home. But this person put them somewhere.
police said that they are working on a to-do list for the prosecutor's office. Hammoud says work on that list, like reviewing electronic evidence, can take months. And the announcement that loved ones are waiting for may come when that list is complete.
I just want it to be over. I just want them to say something, just so we can just put it to rest.
Crime Stoppers of Michigan is offering a reward for any information that leads to an arrest in this case. In Detroit, Sarah Michaels, 7 Action News.
It's tough. You've got to line everything up. And as I've said, I believe that they believe they're very confident that they say the story. Caitlin, great to see you tonight. Let's start with Dr. Hoover. A little background about who this man was. I mean, everything I've heard.
Look at his house.
Sounds pretty
here.
amazing, pretty impressive.
He was a neurosurgeon. That in and of itself is impressive. And Vinny, we have covered cases like this, you and I, for years. And it's so often that people come out in support of these victims. I've not seen one quite like this in some time. There are Facebook groups. There's just been an outpouring of support from loved ones, colleagues, nurses, fellow doctors, former patients. This person was, by all accounts, beloved in the community as a human being and beloved as a doctor. As you said earlier in this setup for the segment, he used to host big events at this palatial estate that he lived in. He always invited people into his home, his family, friends, neighbors. Everyone seemed to care for him.
I'm looking at this neighborhood, I'm looking at this mansion, and it's incredibly impressive. And you go inside that home, and it's so meticulously decorated and classic stuff inside. And to me, that speaks volumes about
I mean, look at this. Look at this home. This is, I mean, literally you see something like, I don't know, a politician, right? That's been in a movie star live in something like this. Well, he did a bunch of fundraisers. So there were people in his home that, you know, you don't really know. Now, I will tell you that some of his stuff was taken after he was unalived. His credit cards were taken. His watch collection, jewelry, stuff like that. Now, they're going to show you some photos of inside the home.
You know, the type of guy he was. You know, this is a guy who did amazing work inside the operating room and owned this home that's almost like walking through a museum of sorts.
It looks like a palace.
That's very interesting you say that, Sandy, because there have been cases where, you know, if someone responded badly to a surgery, they've been unalived, right? Or they feel like it didn't go as it should have. So that's a very interesting point.
A bit. This is someone who you could tell took pride in what they had worked for and kept a really beautiful home. And like I said, constantly invited people into it, hosted different kinds of events. But as you noted, it's meticulous inside. So when police arrived to do that welfare check, the fact that something was amiss was very obvious to them when they got inside the house. We don't know specifically what it was that first alerted them to there being an issue, but something clearly stood out, which is what led them to the discovery of the body.
Yeah.
Now, I have heard, so I'm going to say allegedly, that there appeared to have been like, you know, there was something that you could tell like they were doing before. You know, was that having dinner? Could have been. Was it, you know, something in the bedroom? Right? Was it, you know, was he paying, you know, the lawnman or the cleaning staff, a neighbor?
Yeah, I want to put this up on the screen, some of the other information that we're learning about. this man, this case, this story, this unsolved case. 53 years old, special interest in neck and back disorders. I mean, when you talk about that, this is a guy, you have a doctor like this. He gives people incredible relief from horrific pain, right? So after he does his surgery and treats you, you are just so thankful for the work that he's done. And this is very
and said it was more about his personality and how warm and welcoming and what a wonderful human being he was, not just the fact that he was a brilliant doctor. So it really boggles the mind that he would die in such a violent way and in a way that seemed so targeted. This does not seem like an accident.
Now let's talk about, he's living in this huge house, but he's living by himself.
Now, Jennifer, that happens as well. You know, sometimes you've seen these doctors go into business with others, right? And they feel like they're being cheated or something. They know something. They don't want out. And something happens. Another great point.
Yes, he is living by himself in this, I think it's something like 12,000 square foot home. And one thing we don't have a lot of information about is some of his closest personal relationships. So we know he was living by himself. He was 50-some years old. He was not married at the time. So it does kind of leave a question as to who he was spending some of that personal time with. And as police have said, they do believe this could have been domestic. So I don't know if it was perhaps an acquaintance or an intimate partner that they are looking at. And police have had a couple of suspects or persons of interest in mind throughout this investigation, but we don't know who they are.
And didn't they take one into custody like almost immediately in this investigation?
Listen.
This was back, I think, in the spring, maybe late April. They had someone in custody. They were questioning them. We didn't get a name as to who this person was or how they knew Dr. Devon Hoover, but they were known to be at least an acquaintance of Dr. Hoover, taken into custody, considered a person of interest, but then released. And months went by until we hear in, I believe it was September, that cops were confident that by the time snow hits the ground, we were going to have either a suspect in custody or at least a name of someone who they could point to as being their most.
Okay, so that is who I was speaking about earlier. I told you that they took someone into custody in the very beginning. No one really knew this person's name. A few people did, but they kept it very, very close because I tried to find out. I couldn't. Anyway, so they let that person go. And I told you that they let this person go. While this person was let go, he unalived another person.
Most likely perpetrator, but here we are, the end of November, beginning of December, and we have yet to hear that name.
And is it clear from investigators whether the notification in September refers back to that original person of interest, or did a subsequent person come up during the course of the investigation?
It's not 100% clear, but from what I understand, it does seem like a subsequent person has cropped up, but the investigation really is ongoing, and the police are playing this very, very close to the vest. They have released very little information. A lot of what we have gleaned about the crime scene and the crime itself has been taken from the autopsy report, which again makes it seem like this was a very targeted, very personal attack. It sounds like he was murdered almost execution style.
Found dead in the attic crawl space.
Yes, he was found deceased in the attic crawl space. He had no clothes on other than his socks. He was rolled up in a rug. Now, this would take a lot of energy to go through a 12,000 square foot house. And this wasn't a very accessible area either. Like, we're talking the tip top of the house. Tip top of the house. So it is something that is very interesting.
Shot twice in the back of the head. There was a person of interest that was originally arrested but was released, and no one has been charged. But again, they say they have a suspect but have not named that suspect. Now, the original call here, he lives by himself. So how is it that investigators end up going to his home and finding him?
It was a welfare check, a request for a welfare check.
It doesn't seem like he was unalived in that crawl space, that he was unalived. Either his clothes were taken off or they were already off. And it sounds like he was not expecting this, because this was, again, execution style, back of the head.
From a family member. He was supposed to meet up with some family members and didn't show up. And immediately, of course, they became concerned. This is a reliable man, a reliable doctor, someone that you could count on. And so when he doesn't show up to see his family, they're immediately concerned. Police go for the welfare check, go inside, notice something is amiss, and they find his body in this attic crawl space, covered with a sheet and I believe a rug on top of that, which always kind of struck me as, again, pointing to maybe an intimate partner or someone who at the very least knew him, because you often, as you know, not only cover the body, but it kind of indicates remorse sometimes.
And did they?
So a lot of times, again, most people who are unalived by someone they know. It's usually a family or a friend, or someone is in your vicinity, an acquaintance. They feel like they've been wronged. There's a lot of emotions into it. It's not near as common for someone to just go up and unalive someone without a reason. So we got to kind of remember that. Also, many times after the person is unalived by someone they know, they will hide their face or they will cover them because there is a relationship there. There was a relationship there. And it can also mean some type of remorse or some type of emotion, because after all that rage that you had for someone and you unalive them, something, they may not be glad they did it or whatever. There's emotion. That's the main thing.
Indicate anything was taken from the home, because you go inside a mansion, right? You would expect to find things of value there, whether it's the artwork that he has there, could be money there, could be jewelry, whatever. People that live in mansions like this obviously will have things of value. Was there any talk of a potential that this was some sort of a forced entry or a home invasion or a robbery situation?
Vinny, I can even sort of double down on that theory with the fact that just, I think the day before his funeral, there was a break-in at the house. So you have the crime of this murder and then a subsequent break-in into this mansion. Police have not said if anything was taken, but it does look like the murder was the primary crime, or that he was the primary target.
That's right. The day of Dr. Hoover's funeral, after things have been stolen out of his mansion, his life taken, and while his family is burying him, not to mention his mother died, like, I think it was like a few days before or a few days after Dr. Hoover died. His house was broken into while they were burying this man. Unbelievable.
So he's murdered, and after the murder, then someone breaks into the house. So you've got, I mean, I'm sure huge headlines when the doctor is found dead inside the mansion. It's probably a crime scene for at least a day, I would think, that they're processing it. But then shortly thereafter, someone breaks in.
Forced entry from, I believe, the back of the house, someone breaks in, and it's not clear from the police if the break-in is connected or relates back to the original murder, or if, like you said, splashy headlines, vacant.
Right, they could have forgotten something. They might have forgotten something. They might have wanted to go steal more stuff.
House, massive mansion, if someone just took that as a crime of opportunity and tried to break in to see what they could get away with, and police have not indicated if anything was taken, or if it was, what was taken.
And again, as we sit here tonight, the thought is from what has been released that this isn't a cold case. This isn't a case where they've hit a dead end. This is a case where they've got their eye on someone and they're trying to dot the I's and cross the T's and get enough for probable cause, and perhaps enough that they can bring someone to trial.
Yeah, at least as of September, this was certainly not a cold case from the police's perspective. And
reveals that this is an incident where the two parties knew each other. We have no reason to believe that the community is in any or at any risk. This was not a random act. Again, that's preliminary, but we are still actively working the investigation, but we're confident that no other residents are at risk.
Now, they said no other residents were at risk. That's technically true. No, he didn't have kids, Sandy didn't have kids. But still, the suspect they arrested ended up unaliving someone after Dr. Hoover, again, in a road rage.
His bedroom was put into...
Yes, he was found nude and in a prone position in a crawl space. Not even, like I said, it's like a crawl space, not even, it's like above the attic. Found nude, prone position and crawl space in the home, covered with a comforter, sheet, and rug. Clothing consisted of a black sock on the right foot. Fingernail clippings and samples for a R kit were obtained and tested.
The crawl space. His clothing consisted of a black sock on the right foot. Fingernail clippings and samples for a rape kit were obtained and retained.
I want to tell you guys in just a minute.
Let's bring in our investigators. Joining us tonight, folks, in Los Angeles, California, retired FBI special agent.
I'm trying not to tell people so that, they get the whole
Bobby
story.
Chacon. In Jacksonville, Alabama, forensic death investigator, professor of forensics at Jacksonville State University, and host of the Body Bags podcast, which did do an episode on this. Joseph Scott Morgan is with us. And in Michigan City, Indiana, private investigator, founder of Victims News Online, Erica Morse is with us. Great to see everyone. Okay, Bobby Chacon, I'll begin with you. Welfare check is how this really began, right? You go inside this house, he's found in a crawl space. What does that tell you, if anything, about what may have happened, or who, what type of person we may be looking for here?
Well, it tells me a couple of things. It tells me, obviously, they wanted the body not to be found. They wanted to hide it as long as they could. It also tells me they may have some familiarity with the house. A house that big, the crawl spaces are usually way up. Obviously, they're accessed through the upper floors. So depending on where the murder happened, it tells me the person could have been and might likely have been familiar with the house and where that crawl space was. Obviously, they had to have known it was there to put the body there. So that's what you start looking at. You start piecing up, is there?
Think of carrying someone from the first floor, right, over 12,000 square feet up 3 floors. 3 floors. How did the law pick up the suspect? Well, they interviewed him and then they went to work. And I'll tell you
To put the body there. So that's what you start looking at. You start piecing up, is this someone that's been in the house before? Did they know where this crawl space was? They had to know it was there. Did they stumble across it, or did they know it was there and then bring him there?
I don't know, Alafide, if it had an elevator, but it wouldn't have went to the crawl space. You need a ladder.
So preliminarily, you start putting those kind of pieces together.
Joseph Scott Morgan, looking at the scene here and what happened, they don't believe necessarily that anything was taken, right? You've got this house and you look at this house.
Now, things were taken, actually. Things were taken.
I mean, there are just things of value everywhere. Yeah. Yet they don't believe this was a robbery.
Yeah, you know, what would be the motivation behind this other than, I think, at least from my perspective, some kind of intimate connection. The most chilling bit of this, you know, is, as Bobby had mentioned just a moment ago, I think that this speaks to familiarity with a structure this size, 13,000 square feet. But the fact that Dr. Hoover was absent his clothing, that's a kind of a telltale for me. And, you know, Caitlin had mentioned earlier in the earlier segment that you've got this covering that's going on. When he's discovered, he's actually discovered in a prone position, which means face down. So his face is certainly not in view. You know, in my experience, when you're working with the dead and you come across a case like this, if the face is obscured in any way, we actually have a term called face covering with that. But they went an extra step then. They covered the body in these layers. I think that we have a sheet. I had heard a comforter as well and a carpet. So you've got this layering that's going on as well. It just smacks of intimacy to me.
Erica Morris, I want you to take a listen to the Chief of Police, James White.
Listen to this.
I'll tell you what led to the welfare check. A member of the family called because he did not show up at an event that he was expected to show up at. When the officers arrived on the scene, they were quickly concerned about some of the things that they saw. And as a result, they went into the home, and the rest is where we find ourselves today.
Erica Morris, the things that they saw, right? They're doing a welfare check, which are relatively common, but they see things that lead them at some point eventually to the attic, to this crawl space. But the things that they saw, crucial in this case.
Crucial, man. What I would expect is that there was some type of an indication of a struggle. Caitlin mentioned it earlier. This home was meticulous, and so for things to be out of place certainly would have caught their attention. You know, I have a friend who's actually in Detroit. He's been working the story on the ground ever since it happened. Talked with her a little bit today, and she really feels that the indicator coming from local law enforcement is very similar to that of what we saw in Moscow, Idaho. Was that everybody's kind of assuming that law enforcement isn't doing a whole bunch here. Oh, they really are. They're working a lot behind the scenes. They're remaining tight-lipped because I think they have a really good indicator of who did this, but also they don't want to tip off that individual that they're that close or that they're as close as they are. This person clearly had familiarity not only with the house, but was comfortable enough to be in it for an extended period of time. We talk about, and I think.
So someone who was in it for an extended period of time.
I think we're mentioning
Comfortable
it
with the
later,
house.
how long it takes to drag a body with dead weight. This was not
Now that would give us some
an act
indicator,
that was
you know, who's there for an extended period of time, right? It could be some staff, butlers, family members, lovers, someone working on the house.
was committed in a matter of minutes. So this is definitely someone that felt comfortable enough to have free reign. And I think when they first got into that scene, they saw indicators that something was clearly wrong.
Bobby Chacon, let me ask you and follow up on what Erica is talking about here. If you've got a situation now where someone is in there and is comfortable, familiar, etc., they had to know each other. So how difficult is it to dive into someone's life to figure out what's going on in his life and who he's interacting with, number one. And number two, if they have someone specifically in mind, how close of an eye will law enforcement keep on that person to make sure that they don't leave and abscond?
Well, first of all, I agree with Eric. I think they have who they think it is. And I think we've heard something like that from the chief, who's saying we're working close with prosecutors. They've given us kind of a checklist to go down for this person. And I think that if they do have that, in fact, they're very, very closely watching that person. Your first question was, how do we determine that? Well, if it's an intimate partner situation, we talk via text, we talk via phone calls, emails. They're looking at all of that, who he's communicating with. Even in situations where people want to keep those partners private or those relationships private, there's still some form of communication that happens other than face-to-face. And you try to get at that communication. Is it a text? Is it an email? Is it phone calls? And so you're looking at his phone records. And so all of those types of things have been examined, and then you start narrowing the people. I mean, they may have walked in and there may have been indications for, there may have been two place settings, and there may have been a half-eaten dinner on the table for two people. And then all of a sudden you're like, okay, somebody else was in here eating dinner with this person. Who was that? And so that may have been what they found, because the chief was somewhat circumspect about what they found in the house. He didn't say signs of a struggle, which is normally what they would say. Maybe there was indications of two wine glasses or something like that, where they know there was somebody else in the house with him that night having some kind of social event and stuff.
So, y'all ready for it? Y'all ready for it? Let me show you the man that did this. His name is 34-year-old Desmond Burks. 34-year-old Desmond Burks. Who is he? Who is he? He was someone that had a relationship with Dr. Hoover. That is the connection. He was someone that spoke to Dr. Hoover a lot. Had over 4,000 messages, exchanges between them. Over 4,000. Now, obviously, they come from two different sides of the tracks, shall we say. You've got a very well known doctor, neurosurgeon, not just a doctor, a neurosurgeon. And he would occasionally even charge for some services, if you get my drift. I think that you just don't know, with, there's a lot of high profile single people out there, especially if they keep their personal life just that very, very personal, right? And I'll tell you I'll show you a little bit about this Desmond Burks. He's 34 years old. Let me pop that back up real quick. "34 years old. He's charged with first-degree premeditated unaliving, felony unaliving, larceny over $20,000, felon in possession of a pew-pew, and 3 counts of felony firearm from the April 23 unaliving of Dr. Hoover and his Boston Edison home." Hoover, 53 years old, obviously he was found unalived. Police went to Hoover's house after he was found wrapped in a bloody carpet on April 23rd. A day after he was found, his Range Rover was parked outside another Detroit home. Police went to Hoover's house after the vehicle was found, but no one answered. They returned the next day and found his body face down, wearing only socks. So they did a welfare check, and that's when they found him. Now, again, I told you that Burks is also being charged for unaliving a 67-year-old Dearborn man for road rage. And this was after he was talked to, spoken about, the police with Dr. Hoover. Authorities said Burks got angry after the 67-year-old man bumped the back of his car. The two argued, and that's when police said Burks punched the 67-year-old elderly man, leaving him on the street before running from the scene. Burks was arrested and arraigned Thursday on second-degree unaliving charges. I guess he hit him so hard that he died. Crazy, isn't it? Absolutely crazy. I want to show you right here. Yes, he was questioned in the beginning. Oh my goodness, Max Chica, thank you so much, my sweetie, for gifting 5 memberships Thank you, my love. If you received one of those memberships, please thank our beloved Mex Chica for gifting 5 pearl necklaces. She has entwined you to our strand of pearls. Congratulations. Thank you, my dear Mex Chica. Love you to pieces. Hope you are well. Yeah, just a real winner, right? Winner, winner, chicken dinner.
Reacting to his killer finally being charged nearly a year and a half after his murder. This morning inside the 36th District Courtroom, 33-year-old Desmond Burks was arraigned on 8 felony charges, including first-degree premeditated murder. Gino Vici joining us now live outside of St. John Ascension with reaction. Gino?
Well, Terrence, this is where Dr. Devon Hoover worked as a neurosurgeon for so many years. I spoke to a longtime friend named Brian Douglas, says he's known Dr. Devon Hoover for more than 30 years. And while he says there is lots of relief in the community tonight, now that his killer has been charged, there are lots of questions about how long this investigation took.
I think the community is relieved, like I said in the beginning, but there's things that just don't make any sense.
Brian Douglas is a longtime friend of Dr. Devon Hoover and says one of the things that has bothered him and many others is the time it took to charge 33-year-old Desmond Burks, especially considering there seemed to be many people who knew he was the killer early on. In fact, during Dr. Hoover's funeral, only 7 days after his murder, someone posted this message.
I pray his unaliving Desmond Burks suffers and that justice
on the
is
live
served.
stream that identified Desmond Burks as the killer.
I feel like you have all this investigative stuff she brought out for 5 states and 3 countries. You had 70-something agents or detectives or officers involved in this investigation, but you couldn't bring charges up until a year and a half.
At a news conference yesterday, prosecutor Kim Worthy highlighted the investigation spanned across 5 states and 3 countries. It also highlighted a mountain of evidence against Desmond Burks, who Worthy says was in an intimate relationship with the doctor. There was also surveillance footage, stolen jewelry, and Dr. Hoover's stolen Range Rover being found outside a home associated with Burks, days after the doctor was found.
So it was found on this street right here, the Range Rover. They could have saved the road rage victim. Yeah, he was just left, and I guess the guy fell and hit his head really bad. He's an elderly man. So why do you think this man did it? People are speculating, and I don't even think it's much of a speculation at this point, to be honest with you, that he was on drugs.
Found dead, Burks was taken into custody, but then later released.
This dude was walking around for a year and a half almost, and then a year to the date kills another man in a road rage incident.
Again, prosecutor Kim Worthy saying those answers to those questions about how long the investigation took will be revealed in court. And many are left wondering why this investigation took so long.
I don't know if he ended it. Maybe he, invited him over. Maybe he just said, I'm not giving you any more money. You have this guy who, Dr. Hoover, you see someone of his status that lives in his house. You see, people with money, and then they, you give them money, and then they say, oh, well, you've got this big house. You must have a load of money. You're going to cut me off, right? You're going to cut me off kind of thing. And then they get mad. And then they get revengeful, especially if they're on any type of drugs. Gravy train is ending. Yes.
And as Brian Douglas mentioned, that 67-year-old man that was killed, his name is Rita Sala. Desmond Burks was charged with killing Sala while he was being investigated in Dr. Devon Hoover's murder. So still lots of questions. And again, Prosecutor Kim Worthy saying a lot more information will be revealed in court in Detroit.
So you can bet there's going to be a heck of a lot more revealed in court. And this is going to be two cases of a double unaliving, trial, right? It's going to be quite a bit. Now, I want to show you this. This is very, very interesting right here. I think, I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of doctors out there. There's a lot of politicians that live double lives. Yeah, I'll be covering this trial for sure. Absolutely.
Year, you will remember Dr. Devin Hoover, a neurosurgeon from Ascension Hospital who was found murdered in the attic of his Boston Edison home in Detroit. This happened back in April of 2023. Well, today, the Wayne County prosecutor, Kim Worthy, announced that they are charging this man with first-degree murder, Desmond Burks, their original person of interest in this case. They say that Burks had an intimate relationship with Hoover and was found in possession of his cell phone, pricey watches, and car in the days after the murder.
Subsequent investigation revealed that the victim's cell phone, his wallet, his money, his financial transaction devices, credit cards, and designer watches were missing from the home.
Thank you, Shirley.
The investigation revealed that almost immediately following his murder, multiple fraudulent financial transactions were made from Dr. Hoover's various bank accounts. These transactions spawned for several days after that discovery. An analysis of the
almost immediately after Dr. Hoover was unalived, the credit cards purchases started, buying things, keys to his Range Rover, his Range Rover was taken. Did the good doctor write scripts for Burks? Not that is not came out, so there's been no evidence of that at this point. It just seems like at this point it was more of a sexual relationship.
Victims of Dr. Hoover's cell phone records revealed that Dr. Hoover had approximately 4,000 communications with a number attributed to a Desmond Burks, who resided at 9924 Sussex Street in the city of Detroit. The text messages established that Desmond Burks and Dr. Hoover were in an intimate relationship with one another, and that on occasion, Desmond Burks would charge Dr. Hoover for these sexual services. The investigation of this case was further complicated by the fact that many witnesses were extremely reluctant to come forward to share sensitive and personal information. The analysis also indicates that the day Dr. Hoover was murdered, Dr. Hoover's cell phone traveled from his West Boston Boulevard address to the area of Desmond Burks' address on Sussex. Dr. Hoover's phone appears to return to West Boston for a short period and then travels back to the area of Desmond Burks' residence on Sussex again before traveling to Fairlane Mall in Dearborn.
Sounds like, Dr. Hoover may have picked him up. I don't know. Or, Dr. Hoover went to perhaps his house, picked him up. They went back to their house or his Dr. Hoover's house. And then you can tell that something happened, and then he went back to the unaliver went back to his
Dr.
house.
Hoover's cell phone never returns back to his residence on West Boston.
Yes.
Numerous pieces of corroborating evidence place Dr. Hoover's cell phone in the same location as Desmond Burks. The evidence includes, but certainly is not limited to what I'm about to say. Dr. Hoover's cell phone detail records, Google account search warrant returns, Desmond Burke's cellular phone detail records, Range Rover geolocation data, Project Greenlight video, 9901 Coyle Street video, and Golden Fantasy Jewelry Store video surveillance.
Yep, he went to a jewelry store. Sure did. Jerry Lynn, thank you so much, my dear, for becoming a pearl. Pearls look amazing on you, my friend. Welcome to the family. Thank you, love. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Really, really do appreciate that, my dear. Thank you, thank you.
So you watched that press conference live here on Local 4 Plus a little bit earlier on this morning. I think what is so baffling about this as we were listening to this is Desmond Burks is already in custody for second-degree murder in an entirely different case. As you see, Sean Lay, he was at the press conference. He joins me now live. And Sean, I know that these two cases are not connected, but I can't help but wonder about the reaction from the family in the road rage case that happened just in April with a guy, Burks, that was already a person of interest in another murder.
Christy, almost a year to the day of the Devon Hoover homicide. There's a road rage incident up on the west side involving this guy, Desmond Burks. He was 33 at the time. An 87-year-old man bumps into him, rear ends him with his car. Both get out. Burks is charged with hitting him. The guy falls to the pavement. He's found in the middle of the street.
This guy said 87. The other news said 67.
And he dies later. So he's behind me right now, Dwayne County Jail, charged with that. However, he was under surveillance almost from the very hours Dr. Devon Hoover was missing. His family called in a welfare check. This is back in April 23rd, 2023, up in Boston Edison. They found the doctor's body, and almost, I was told by sources, immediately they had a suspect, a person of interest. It ends up being Desmond Burks, and he was under surveillance all this time. So why wasn't he was held, Christy, and then he was released pending further investigation. Now, Kim Worthy laid out how much investigation there was. Several countries, several states, 181 pages of documents in the investigative report. Video. But it boils down to that Kim Worthy and Chief White said Dr. Hoover's credit cards were used almost immediately following Dr. Hoover's homicide. And investigators are good at this. They caught up with green light camera video, whipping up a suspect, ended up being Desmond Burks, but let him go and said he was not a threat to the community because he had this personal relationship with the doctor.
Love you too, Carol.
And then there's a road rage incident, and the two are not connected, of course, but I suppose you can. I was just talking to police about it. You can't surveil a person every minute of the day, and it was a freak situation with the road rage incident. Now, Chief White was walking out of here after the news conference and said, Chief, hang on, let me get accurate on this. I'll just make sure we have all this straight. He said, basically, hey, circle back to my public information people. I did, and they said one has nothing to do with the other, and Kim Worthy wanted more evidence on Burks to charge him with the doctor's murder, and while that was being gathered, a road rage incident, he killed an 87-year-old man named Saleh. Christy, if you follow that, it's a lot. It's a lot. But that's what they're laying out here for us today. And we didn't see that coming. We've covered the case about the road rage incident, and we knew about Dr. Hoover's homicide and that there was a person of interest. I was told the prosecutors waiting for a handgun, the murder weapon, before they charged. I asked if was the murder weapon found. Kim Worthy said, I'm not going to talk about that. But they said he was not a threat to the community. He had done time. We just found out from our own assignment desk. Did some prison time for arson and gun crimes, has a relationship with the doctor, under surveillance for month after month, and then kills a guy allegedly in a road rage situation.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack here,
wild.
Sean.
It's wild.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. And I know that you're going to be on it today. You'll have more for us on Local 4 News at 5 and 6 o'clock. Thanks so much.
So, a lot of people in high status, whether they are, doctors, lawyers, one second, anything of that nature, celebrities, they can live a pretty lonely existence. And they don't want a lot of their business, their, especially their personal business, being put out in the public like that. And so, because 9 out of 10 people will say, probably 8 out of 10 people will say, you can trust me, but they end up they get screwed over and over and over and over and over again. How's the new schedule going? Hatters. It's going. I don't like new schedules. I'll be honest with you. I really struggle with new schedules. I don't know why, Lisa. That's weird. So there's that. They have a very yes. Yeah, they have a very careful with their personal life, for sure. And that is why, many of them will, politicians, doctors, lawyer, anyone of a high status will many times, if they're single, even if they're not single, will purchase someone's time because it's not, they're not going to be out, slashing their tires later. So if you look right over here, this is the monster that did it.
Second degree. Defendant has a habitual offender for offense notice, mandatory 25-year sentence. Defendant also has case number 2405-869301. Defendant is charged in count 1, homicide, murder, first degree premeditated. Count 2,
This is only
homicide,
a couple
felony
minutes
murder.
long, so
Count 3, larceny, 20,000 or more. Count 4, computers used to commit a crime, maximum imprisonment of 10 years or more, but less than 20. Count 5, weapons, firearm, possession by a felon. Count 6, weapons, felony, firearm, second offense notice. Count 7, weapons, felony, firearm, second offense notice. Count 8, weapons, felony,
Okay,
firearm, second offense notice. Defendant has a habitual offender for defense notice, mandatory 25-year sentence.
Appearances for the record, please.
Good morning, Your Honor. Lisa Lindsay on behalf of the people of the state of Michigan, P number 39570.
And good morning, Your Honor. Mike Glenn for the people. My P number is 77516.
And good morning, Gabby Silver appearing on behalf of Desmond Burks.
And is that you, Mr. Burks?
Yes.
Tell me your name for the record, sir.
Desmond Burks.
All right. What's your pleasure, Mr. Silver?
Well, Judge, as it relates to this matter, there was a competency referral on Mr. Burke's earlier case. We have received a report back from the Forensic Center. I am requesting an independent, that I am requesting time to do the independent. I don't need to make a request for an independent. We also believe, I did have a discussion with Mr. Glenn about this yesterday, and we think that we need to re-refer him on the new case, but I will have the independent done as to both matters at the same time, so we can move forward.
Okay, so explain to me why we need to re-refer him for the new case.
Hey, dogs in decor, where is your post at, my dear? Where's your post at, my dear? He just kind of sits there with his head.
Because there's still an issue, as I believe, as to competency, and I don't think we can legally use.
That's right. The attorney is trying to say competency here. Is he competent enough? Well, you unalived someone that was very good to you. You took his Range Rover, and then you went and bought a bunch of stuff. Under Mex Chicas? What did Mex Chica say? Dogs and decor. Let me see if I see Mex Chica. Bear with me 1 second. I don't see Mex Chica. Tennessee just said Seth is hoping to get cleared so he can have the cold case foundation day. But that's the thing though. I'm going to go live after this on Sebastian Rogers. Yes, if they clear Seth, that is one opening. However, I don't know if they can do it if the police doesn't support, like, opens it up to them. Right? He does need to be cleared, though. He certainly does need to be cleared. For sure. About summer at 11 p.m. Yep. Yeah, Grace. It is tonight. And that isn't a... Josh says that isn't a stipulation. That the police doesn't have to agree to it? Is that what you mean, my dear? That would be great. I don't think it's necessarily cold yet either. Cold case may be limited to police. Do not want them. No, Mohawk, they assisted Brandy's case. The new crew has a YouTube channel. The new crew. No, Catherine, I don't think Sebastian is here anymore at all. No. Nope, I think that's pretty. I don't think he was with us after midnight of the 25th going into the 26th. Yeah. I hate that when people do wrong and they holler for mental evaluation. I know, it's frustrating. Has the home advantage. Yeah. They always have. That's why it's so frustrating a lot of times, is because any case, they will not, nobody can, in America, you cannot work a case if you weren't invited, right? Like they will always have the jurisdiction. So I don't know. We'll just have to see. Gotcha. Exactly. Police welcome them with Monkey's case. Yes. I was saying if police do not cooperate, okay, the Cold Case Foundation could be limited. Yes. Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. All right, guys. I will be back here shortly. Make sure you guys join me. It is 8 o'clock, almost 7:44. I'll be back in 1 hour, about 8:45, 9 o'clock ish. We'll be talking about Sebastian Rogers. We'll also be taking calls and all of that. So happy Friday to everyone. We're going to continue to follow this case. And it's just very sad. Dr. Hoover was unalived for senseless, absolutely senseless. All right, guys. Love you. Thank you for joining me. I'll see y'all in a little bit. Bye-bye.